Thank you for taking the time to listen to our weekly service. This is a listener-supported ministry, and we ask that you pray and see what God would have you give. Now let's get to our sermon for today.
Okay, today I was going to do part 2 of last week, but since we were having new visitors and they didn't hear part 1, and I decided to do something special just for the day, and we'll do part 2 probably next Sunday. I'm not sure yet. But anyhow, this morning we're going to be talking about the king who almost stole Christmas. Now, remember the movie, The Grinch That Stole Christmas? I've seen the movie of real-life figures and the cartoon, both of them, and I guess I've seen the cartoon probably a zillion times. I don't even watch it anymore. I almost know it by heart. But he hated Christmas, the Grinch did, and he did everything he could to stop it. And guess what? He found that he couldn't. Well, someone else tried to steal Christmas. And today we're going to talk about 2 kings, more on one than the other. One who started Christmas and the one who tried to stop it. The first king is Herod. He tried to stop. Herod who hated Christmas more than probably the Grinch ever did. Herod tried to kill off Christmas. Herod was a ruler at the time of Christ of Galilee. That's the province, a good section of Israel. He was the king of that. And the Senate, the Roman Senate, actually gave him a nickname, King of the Jews, because most of the people in the province were Jews. And the Romans were hoping that Herod would learn and know how to control the Jews and not let them become a big problem. Because obviously they believed one way and the Roman Empire believed another. And we see the story of what Herod tried to do here to kill off Christmas in Matthew chapter 2 verse 1, which is printed out on your paper there. I do have some extra papers here if anybody wants one, right in front of my wife's pocketbook there. If anybody wants one, put your hands up or give some to them. Matthew chapter 2 verse 1. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born the King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and the scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophets, And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art thou not the least among the princesses of Judah? For out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. Well, again, Herod's the king at this time. Herod is a power-hungry person. I mean, this guy wanted power. He wanted to be like Caesar and have power. Not that he was trying to take Caesar's place, but he wanted to be that in his realm. And he just loved power. To the point where when he became king of that province, he was approximately 25 years old, which is pretty young for someone to take that position in the secular world. And the first thing he did, without thinking, he didn't have some subcommittees thinking about it and debating it back and forth. He went out and killed every known enemy that he had. Wiped them out right away. First act he ever did. Killed them all. Not only that, but he even killed his brother-in-law. His mother-in-law. Well, we understand that part, don't we? Okay. Oh, no intent, by the way. I wasn't thinking about that. He killed 2 of his sons. I have a way of getting myself into trouble. I don't even try. He killed 2 of his own sons, and he even killed his wife. Well, I didn't go through all that, but he did it in order to do what he wanted to do, to run the kingdom the way he wanted to, and no one to tell him what to do, basically. And like I said, now Josephus was a historian during the time of Christ. We have historians today that constantly write down history. what's going on today, and eventually will become history. Well, Josephus was a well-known historian of his day, and he even wrote down and called Herod a barbaric person. This guy was beyond anything you could even comprehend, and he ruled for some 40 years before he died. He actually built quite a few buildings during this time as well. I mean, literally, he tried to be the king. But back in Matthew chapter 2, verse 8, Herod sends the wise men to Bethlehem. We read about that, okay? He tells them to go, and he brings them in privately, and he says, listen, guys, when you find out where Christ is, come back and let me know, so I can come and worship him too. All right, that was a big lie. What he wanted to do is get rid of Christ right off the bat. But being warned of God, the wise men did not go back. They went back a different way and never told Herod. And then we find in Matthew chapter 2, verse 16, it says, Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceedingly wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem, in all the coasts thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which had diligently inquired the wise men. So in other words, he took the time to figure out how old Christ would be, approximately. And let's wipe out every child in the province. Kill them all the way down to 0, to 2 years old. Now, I mean, that's pretty bad. This guy, like I said, nothing's going to stand in his way to be a very powerful king. Well, he tries to kill off the Christmas by killing the children. But then we see that God took action during this time, just before that, to save Christ. And in Matthew chapter 2, verse 13, it says, And when they were departed, which was the wise men finally leave now. And by the way, for those of you that don't know, the wise men was not at the manger during the birth of Christ. They didn't show up until almost a year to 2 years later. And so how that ever got together in the manger, I don't know. But so anyhow, so they departed, and behold, the angel of the Lord appeared unto Joseph, which is the father of Christ, in a dream, saying, Arise, take your young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the child to destroy him. So that was his life ambition now. He had to get rid of the possibility of somebody that's going to be as powerful as he is, or maybe take his spot. And so the king almost stole Christmas. King number 2, Christ. We won't spend as much time with him because most of us know all about it, but he's King of the Jews. As it said in the scripture we read today, Christ is what Christmas is all about. Remember, and I've been preaching this for the last couple weeks now, it's Christ's birthday coming up, not ours. Now what do we do when we have a birthday? We bring gifts to each other. Well, people bring gifts to us. What will you bring to Christ on his birthday? You need to think about that. And I'm challenging everybody all the way to Christmas, or the Sunday before Christmas, to really just sit down and pray and think, what can I do? It could be, I'm going to do devotions the rest of the year. You know, we have the daily, by the way, we still have a couple more daily bread here for free. I'm going to read the Bible through in a year. I'm going to tithe my money. I'm going to attend service more. There's so many things you can do. Or maybe I'm going to pray so much a day, or so many times a day. There's a lot of things. Or you can say, I'm not going to do certain things I know are wrong, and I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to change my life. It could be something like that. But there's lots of things you can give Christ on his birthday. Herod did try to stop. But listen, it didn't happen. The Jews even tried to hang him, thinking, well, we got rid of Christ. But they didn't. That was part of the plan, so we can have a way to get to heaven. So everybody's trying to stop Christmas, but it continues day after day. And now we celebrate Christmas every year, and we don't want to lose what it's all about. And I say that because, I went shopping with my wife and this weekend, and we pull in there. Well, we just park at the very end. I don't even bother looking for a spot in the front. She wouldn't let me anyhow because the car might get scratched. got out of the gym the other day down here, and a lady was parking her Lexus way out there. I didn't know. She got out of the car. I realized it was her. So I was walking. By the time I got to my Jeep, she was just passing me. I said, "You must be related to my wife." And she says, I caught her off guard. What? I said, "That's where my wife would park her car." She says, "I don't want no one scratching it." Well, anyhow, we park out there. But that's one reason. But I'll tell you another reason. I don't worry about fighting the crowds. I want to enjoy shopping the best I can. I don't want to get frustrated. I was going to say frustrated. When I'm in line and there's so many people in front of me and I get in the short line and thinking I'm going to make it through, and the long line went through faster than my short line did. And some lady was going to start to get in front of us, and she stopped, and I said, "No, go ahead. I'm not going to fight it. I want to enjoy the Christmas holiday. I want to enjoy people thinking about Jesus Christ." And I love the fact the mangers are all over every place I go, especially the one we have. That guy must have sold a lot of them, and because they're everywhere now. I know the guy that first built the first one. He lives down near Publix. But just to think about Jesus Christ. What's Christmas all about? It's not about Santa Claus. And listen, I play Santa Claus with my kids. I tell them that when they were growing up, it's the spirit of giving. That's what I did with it. We went ahead and got a little thing to where Santa Claus is praying over Christ in the manger, like that. And I try to put it in a right perspective because it isn't going to go away. So I'm trying to make it at least fit into the situation a little bit. But I want my family to know that this is, we talked about the wise men. They gave gifts, and that's where the gifts came from. So now we give gifts. And that's great. But don't forget why the gifts were given. Take a moment and talk about it. Read the story of Christ being born or something there before you open the gifts up. Try to do everything you can to remember what Christmas is all about. And don't let the shopping, the traffic, or anything. The traffic at Haywood Mall, as soon as I pulled in there, I went, wow, they're all the way out to the furthest part of the parking lot. And I said, I ain't worrying about it. I'm just going to pull in. She wanted to go in Penny's, so we went down underneath the thing there. And I found a spot. It was as far away as you could get, but I found it. It was the only spot open at the time. And so we walked. I said, what the heck, we need the exercise anyhow, so we walked. And then she made me go get the car and pick her up at the end. Hey, that's what I'm there for. You got to take care of my woman. He's the only other guy I know that calls his wife woman, other than me. But don't let the Grinch destroy your Christmas. We can't stop it. He couldn't stop it. Herod couldn't stop it, and he tried his best to stop it. Nobody can. Christ came into this world to save sinners, of whom I am chief. And I realize that I am. And if he can save me, he can save you or anybody else that needs salvation. Slow down, look around you, and don't let the Grinch steal Christmas from you. Even if you're got all these people in front of you are a bunch of idiots. And I mean, we sit there and go in there. It just blows me away, some of these people Christmas shopping and all. And especially when a lot of them are Christmas shopping in their pajamas. I never have figured that out. But enjoy the salvation Christ has come into this world to give us. This is his birthday. He came into the world to die for us, just so we can have a way to get to heaven. Don't let Herod or the Grinch or anyone else steal the joy of the greatest gift ever given, the gift of Christ. There's a movie, I wish I could remember it. I've told you this before, where the question was asked, what's the first gift of Christmas? I happen to guess it. I've brought this to you before, so most of you know what the answer is. But it is Christ. But it was done on secular movie, and he kept thinking and saying stupid things. But I want to read you a letter. It's not about Christmas, but it's about giving. Listen what it says here. Ruth went to her mailbox one day and found the letter. It had no stamp, no postmark, just her name and address. And this is what the letter said. Dear Ruth, I'm going to be in your neighborhood Saturday afternoon, and I'd like to stop by for a visit. Love always, Jesus. Her hands were shaking as she placed the letter on the table. Why would the Lord want to visit me? I'm nobody special. I don't have anything to offer. With that thought, Ruth remembered her empty kitchen cupboards. I have to run down to the store and buy something for dinner. She reached into her purse and counted out its contents, $5.40. Well, I can get some bread and cold cuts at least. After buying a few things at the store, Ruth started walking home quickly. Hey, lady, can you help us, lady? Ruth had been so absorbed in the dinner plans that she hadn't even noticed two figures huddled in an alley. A man and a woman, both of them dressed in little more than rags. Look, lady, I ain't got a job, you know, and my wife and I have been living out here on the street. And well, now it's getting cold and we're getting kind of hungry, and well, if you could help us, lady, we'd really appreciate it. Ruth looked at both of them. They were dirty and they smelled bad. Sir, I would like to help you, but I'm a poor woman myself. All I have is some meat and some bread, and I'm going to have an important guest for dinner tonight. And I'm planning to serve him that. Yay. Well, okay, lady. I understand. Thanks anyway. The man put his arms around his wife's shoulder, and they headed back into the alley. As she watched them leave, Ruth felt a familiar twang in her heart. Sir, wait. The couple stopped and turned as she ran down the alley after them. Look, why don't you take this food? I'll figure something out to serve my guest. She handed the man her grocery bag. Thank you, lady. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. It was the man's wife. And Ruth could see now that she was shivering. Ruth then replied tenderly, You know, I got another coat at home. Here. Why not take this one? Ruth unbuttoned her jacket, slipped it over the woman's shoulder, then smilingly she turned and walked back to the street. And without her coat, and with nothing to serve her guest, Thank you, lady. Thank you very much. Ruth was chilled by the time she reached her front door and worried too. The Lord was coming to visit her, and she didn't have anything to offer him. She fumbled through her purse for the keys to the front door, but as she did, she noticed another envelope in the mailbox. That's odd. The mailman doesn't usually come twice in one day. She took the letter out of the box and opened it. Dear Ruth, it was so good to see you again. Thank you for the loving meal, and thank you for the beautiful coat. Love always, Jesus. The air was still cold, but without her coat, Ruth no longer noticed the cold. Now, the Bible tells us in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2, it says this, Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for whereby some have entertained angels unaware. And that still takes place today. Angels walk around for whatever reason, I don't know. And sometimes something happens. I don't know if the lady was an angel, the last accident I had, but when I left the bike at 60 miles an hour and went over the front handlebars on 95 up in D.C. with it's 4 or 5 lanes one way on the Beltway. I mean, we're talking, and it was wall-to-wall cars when I left that bike. And when I finally stopped rolling, I rode past the car in front of me. That's how fast I was rolling, tumbling. Anyhow, well, I landed on my stomach. And I sat there, and the first thing I always do is I start moving myself. Did I break a bone or something? You know, if I did, I'm going to lay there. Well, I couldn't find anything protruding away. So I slowly got up to my knees, but I'm still hurting, and I'm facing down in pain at the moment. And all of a sudden, I'll never forget, I heard the neatest, calmest voice of a woman say, "Sir, you're hurting really bad right now, and the best thing you can do is lay back down and wait for the ambulance." And I remember saying to her, I understand that, but I got to do what I got to do. And I never saw her. I didn't look up. And I don't know. And to this day, I always wonder, just if you could have heard the voice, you would be thinking what I'm thinking right now. And but we don't know if we're going to entertain angels. And you don't know whether you give your last thing away. And we have records of that in the Old Testament, where the lady only had a little bit left in a jar. And was it Elijah, I guess it was? I'm trying to remember who it was. Said, "Don't worry, give me your last meal." And she said, I was just planning on doing it without you and eat, and my son and I were going to die. And he said, "Just give it to me and trust me." And that thing never got empty. Every time she made a meal, it filled all just magically back up again until everything was back and a drought was done. We don't know what God can do. And sometimes we say, "I don't have money to do this. I don't have money to do that. Oh, I don't have time to do this." You can, and you can make time. If I learned anything when I went to college, one of my first orientation classes, they said most people that leave college leave the first 2 weeks of college because they get these papers. And the papers say, these are all the tests you're going to do for the semester, and these are all the papers you're going to do. And when you look at it, and that's only one class, and you got 5 more classes to go to, and you go, "I can't do this one class, let alone 5 more. And they teach you, don't look at the future, look at what's today, and you'll make it. And if this dummy can make it, anybody can make it. So it taught me that you got to look at what you got. Whether it's helping somebody in the line, even when we were walking out, there was a guy standing in his car, and everybody's just walking out up the parking lot. And I could tell another car is going to come down, so I just stopped. And I told him, "Come on." And he goes, no. I said, "Come on." And so he finally went in and parked, and he was thankful. And it's so neat that you can share little bitty things. They can blossom to somebody else, and then somebody else will help somebody else, and then somebody else will. And there's some commercials about that on TV, But this is Christmas time. This is all about Jesus Christ. And we need to back down, calm down. Even if the tree isn't done, or we don't know if we're going to get the Christmas stuff all together, or buy all the presents in one place that we want to, it will come together. But make it fun. Enjoy it. So when it's all done, you can say, "What a wonderful holiday." You've called, and I think you've called while I've been watching Christmas movies. And I keep falling asleep during the Christmas movies. I got to watch the movie 3 times before I see the whole movie. But I like them because they actually encourage me to either love my wife more, because a lot of them have to do with falling in love, and they show real love and not the way love is today, where people, they go steady instead of getting married and go steady instead of falling in love for real. And then there's this other one which was really neat. I think it's called It Happened One Christmas Eve, the one with the dog. What was the name of that? Where the guy's trying to palm off a dog, and the whole thing, one accident after another happens. Whether the car falls in the lake, goes in, it's just, you can't help but laugh just thinking about it, this movie. Everything that could go wrong. And all these people that didn't know each other come together because of all that, including the doctor in the hospital and the nurse. I love the nurse. She can't believe they keep coming back to the hospital. But at the end, what really blessed my heart is they all ate together Christmas Day at her house. And they were all thankful, and they were all given gifts that they had on themselves. Here, I want you to have this and all. And I thought, that's what Christmas is all about, enjoying it in spite of all the problems. Take time. Enjoy the holiday. Family, friends, whatever. Let's pray. Father in heaven,
we pray that we have been a blessing to you. For further assistance, call us at 864-270-1472 anytime. Send email to info@stlmm.org or visit our website at www.stlmm.org. Like any ministry, it costs money to operate. Please consider supporting this ministry as God leads you with your prayers and your financial gifts by going to www.stlmm.org and clicking on Donations.